It is hard to imagine that there was a time when the only cloud vendor, the only technical public cloud where you could run applications without having to build out your own data store was actually Google. And they screwed it up. But what's really interesting is Amazon. So Amazon built AWS, Amazon Web Services, for themselves, and then they started selling that service to other people. And there was a time when that thing was completely not enterprise ready. Not only were they not enterprise ready, they didn't even know what it meant to work with a company other than themselves. I mean, they kind of did, and it was cool already. So I got a call, God, I don't know when, maybe 2010, maybe before that. I got a call that they were looking for pre-sales engineers. Yeah, this might be one of those, you idiot, what were you thinking? But it's cool. You can't look back. And maybe it's better that something didn't go that way. But the end result was they had two people covering the entire country. Like, I don't think you remember, a lot of people don't remember, there was a time when Amazon didn't want to do business, didn't want any of their employees visiting any state where they didn't pay sales tax. So that meant you couldn't have an Amazon office anywhere besides like two places. I don't remember what they were. Might have been Virginia and California, but it was only a couple. And so they wanted to have cloud engineers and this whole thing. And you got to remember, this is back when like EC2 IAM and S3 were like their only products, right? Like it was pretty thin pickings. And there were other pieces, but that was basically it. It was like a rented data center, but cool because you could scale it. And then you still wrote everything yourself. But they only had two people covering the whole country. And they called and they were like, dude, we want you to consider, come interview with us. And I'm like, well, what are you going to pay? And they were going to pay like flat engineering rates. And they didn't have a bonus plan. And at the time, they really weren't doing much on the stock side. They may have been, but not really. But it was like, half of what I was making somewhere else. And they said, hey, we want to do this. And I was like, man, you're going to have to pay commissions. You got to go visit customers. And they were like, no, we're going to do everything through Skype. Or whatever the equivalent was at the time. We can't visit anybody. And we're not going to do any bonuses. We're just going to do like this normal interior engineering thing. And I was like, man, I feel like that's not the right thing to do. And you know what? It was maybe 5 years later or whatever that the sales tax ended. And that meant suddenly Amazon could actually put people out closer to their customers and build centers of excellence other places. And they actually could go on sales calls and they could talk to big enterprises. And by that amount of time, they had moved from the bare bones data center. Actually, my notes here say 2012 was when they got S3 and EC2. They started to add a few other services, right? And it was not like the 100 services a year like they do now. It's crazy what happens there now. Like just reading their announcements gives me hives because I can't keep up. But it was amazing, right? So when you look at a company early on, or you look at a company that you're thinking of going with, or you're building a company, just remember, there was a time when Amazon and AWS had no idea what they were doing, or barely. I mean, they did. I don't mean it like that because they succeeded. But they had a lot of adjustment to growth, which they did, transformation, which they did. They got smarter and better and bigger. But you just got to remember, when you talk to somebody, they may be not get their act together, or they may be the Amazon or AWS of their time. Have a great day.